Hello, I'm Elice DeRoos with Zurich, North America. Today I'm with Alan Ferguson of US Assure. Alan is the president of US Assure, Zurich's program administrator for residential and commercial construction coverage. US Assure insures projects up to $75 million in value. Today, Alan and I are going to spend a little bit of time talking in a Q&A format about the construction and insurance industry. Alan, are you ready for the first question?
I sure am.
Great. Alan, could you tell us a little bit about what is new in the construction industry?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So essentially what we've been seeing is a little bit of change around how people are living and working into this new post-COVID environment. Ultimately, what we're seeing is some design changes really geared up towards getting houses ready for a work from home or even a learn from home environment. So I think you're going to see a lot of accommodations change in the way homes are designed and constructed to allow for more modular space, combined use space, things that typically have been fixed in place in a home, like a kitchen cabinet, even a kitchen island might now be on wheels, have convertible tops that can be adjusted to desks and things like that. So I think the use of the space inside a home is going to be much more efficient, almost thinking in terms of how motorhomes, RVs, boats are constructed today, where space can be easily reconfigured for whatever the task may be at hand.
Great. Now, the next question I have is, how has COVID-19 affected the industry?
Well, it's had a significant impact, and really the larger impact has been around projects that were ongoing before this happened, and essentially the pace of construction has slowed significantly, partly driven by mandated closures in certain states and certain jurisdictions. Lots of parts of the country we're seeing limitations on the number of subcontractors that are allowed on a job site. So as an example, in a typical home building project, you might have a framing contractor, a plumbing contractor, and an electrician all on the job the same day. Now, if the plumbers are there, nobody else can be on that particular job. And even in some instances, they're abiding by odd rules where two people can be inside the structure, one outside the structure, and one in a truck. So definitely slowed things down as far as those ongoing activities. As far as what we're seeing on new projects or projects we're not in flight is really having to do with architects and engineers. As those folks have been saddled to a work from home environment and think of the use of the heavy CAD and engineering programs, it's very difficult to have all those people online remotely. So those offices are typically working 25% folks in the office, the rest out. So the pile of work is stacking up as they're getting to those things, which is slowing down the permitting process, which certainly is slowing down the start of construction. And all that goes hand in hand with inspections. Lots of jurisdictions are not allowing inspectors out on job sites if the homes are occupied, commercial structures are occupied, and or not allowing them out at all. Certain municipalities won't allow folks to come in to pull a permit. Everything's having to be done remotely, of which there's no system in place. So that is something that's a little bit unique that slowed us down. And the other significant part of this is really just the building materials. A lot of folks are getting involved in what I call the DIY world. So your typical big box stores like the Home Depots and Lowe's in the world are having a shortage of things like framing materials, sheeting goods, those types of things. So typically that's what we're seeing. One positive is that a lot of the public works projects are taking off at a much more rapid rate, with things that are like traffic slowing down. Street and road projects can now work 20 hours a day instead of only 10 because they're not worried about worker safety and traffic. So there has been some positive as well impacting construction.
Very interesting. Can you also tell me a bit more of what's going on in the insurance space?
Well, really prior to this, I mean, some of the trends we were seeing around frame is just a limited capacity that's out there. And ultimately what we're seeing is with things like wildfire in California, certain CAT activity in parts of the country the last few years, the capacity or the wherewithal to write frame has kind of slowly begun to remove from the market. Lots of carriers are hardening their pricing stance on that, if not their eligibility guidelines. And many are actually seeking quota share partners to accomplish that. So that's one of the larger areas we've seen a major impact leading into this COVID-19 pandemic. And in the commercial side, we're starting to see some changes in coverage requests and the things people are looking for. There's a lot of dialogue in the market today around contingent liability. Typically, these coverages are provided through the liability product. However, certain carriers such as US Assure and Zurich are adding endorsements to their policies that will allow for some limited liability coverage for damage caused to an adjacent structure the project we're insuring. It's really more designed to get after those nuisance type claims, not necessarily to provide a true liability cover, for those projects. And then other things you're seeing around technology enhancements is we plan to launch a new product called Express Bind. And ultimately what Express Bind is it's a system enhancement that will allow us to provide to an agent a bindable quote for their insured with really answering, I believe, 6 triage questions and giving us an address. So it's a very simple, updated system that really will be a game changer in how folks go out and price residential builders risk construction in the market going forward. We'll be live with that on June 5th.
Thanks, Alan. Before we end, I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share with us in regards to the insurance and construction marketplace?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think for us, it's really the what's next in all this. Everybody's gone through this massive transition to work from home. We sent 100 folks home at lunchtime on Monday, March 16th. And quite honestly, none of them want to come back. So how we work and where we work is going to change significantly in our daily lives. And that's going to have an impact not only on the homes we talked about earlier in this interview, but it's also going to have an impact on those commercial structures. There's going to be a glut, quite possibly in certain parts of the country, where you have a large amount of inventory of commercial space that goes empty. How those buildings are repurposed is really going to be the next trend I believe we'll see from a remodeling standpoint and a construction standpoint. The unique thing to this is those entities that go back to work, which means back to brick and mortar locations, to these pre-COVID norms that everybody was used to, I think how they work will change as well. I think you'll see less of open collaborative space. You'll see fewer low wall cubicles. You'll see fewer open areas and more back to a transition of more square feet per person, back to offices with doors, back to an environment where people feel more comfortable based on what we've learned around social distancing, interacting with folks. Traffic patterns around the offices are going to change. So all those things will impact not only how we live and work, but also the construction industry as well.
Thanks, Alan. That was really insightful. I hope the audience enjoyed the information Alan shared with us today as much as I did. Thank you very much for your time, Alan.
Great. Thank you very much.